Hello, this is Christian Haynes, and I'm here to talk about all the problems with Star Wars. The reason why I'm doing this is because I feel like Star Wars is put on this high pedestal of perfection, and people don't really see any flaws about it, so I feel like, I don't know, I just wanted to make a video just explaining like all the problems with it. Not to bash or anything, but just to show problems that people may have overlooked. So it starts off by saying, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which doesn't really make sense because it's set in the future. I mean, it's supposed to be a galaxy far, far away, so I mean, I guess it could have any kind of technology, but still, if it's a long time ago, then it probably wouldn't be that futuristic. So it starts off by saying episode 4, and I feel like this is kind of confusing because people don't really know like what came before it. I mean, I guess it's supposed to set up for the prequels, but I don't know, it's a little strange to me that they would put that there. Also, what's really the point of the opening title scene? I mean, I guess it's supposed to be a throwback to like all the serials of the past, but I feel like it would be cooler to actually show what the title is saying rather than actually having us read about it. So the ship flies overhead and is being attacked by the rebel cruiser, which is just pretty cool, but once it's actually captured, the stormtroopers, once they storm in, they actually have perfect shots. I mean, this is a little weird because later on in the movie they can't shoot anything, but suddenly they're able to like actually shoot and kill rebels like out of the blue. Also, it introduces our two main characters, the droids C-3PO and R2-D2, and I kind of have a problem with the character of C-3PO. I don't really see the purpose of him in the entire movie. I mean, I see the purpose of R2-D2, now he's there to like, you know, deliver the message and everything, but I just don't understand why C-3PO has to tag along. So once they actually get through, what's that technology that they use to actually open the door? I mean, they use it and there's like a bunch of sparks everywhere, but how does that actually work? And why don't they ever use that again? Also, how come we never get to know the rebels personally? We get to see them like fighting for the rebellion and everything, but we never actually get to know them personally. You know, I think it'd be really helpful if we actually got to know their names so we can actually care about them once they're actually killed. Also, are Leia's parents royalty? I never really understood that. She's called Princess Leia, but her parents are senators, Senator Organa and his wife. I mean, are they senators and they become royalty? Or were they royalty the entire time? Also, here's a part that kind of annoys me, where the rebel is being choked by Darth Vader, and suddenly he's thrown off, and he protects his face. Last time I checked, dead people don't protect themselves. Also, why did C-3PO actually go into the pod with R2-D2? I mean, as I said before, there's not really a point to his character, but I guess he was lonely and just wanted to be with R2-D2. So, if Leia is Darth Vader's daughter, why don't they sense that? If you can sense his wife still being alive when she gave birth to Luke and Leia, why wouldn't he be able to feel that same sensation once he's in the same room with her? Even if he didn't know that that was his daughter, he should still feel something, right? And also, if Leia is somewhat force sensitive herself, shouldn't she feel a connection to Darth Vader too? Also, why doesn't she show signs of actually being able to use the Force? If she's the daughter of a Jedi, she should be somewhat force sensitive. So why do C-3PO and R2-D2 land so far away from Ben Kenobi? That's a little weird. Wouldn't they plan in coordinates of where to land exactly rather than in the middle of this desert where there's like nothing around? Also, how is R2-D2 able to travel against rocky terrain? I mean, why doesn't he just use his jets like he did in episode 2 and 3? I mean, he uses those in those movies, but later on he never used them again. Also, this is another minor quibble, but how did the Jawas get that big transporter? I mean, they're these little guys. Did they build it? Did they take it? They never really explained that. Also, this is another minor point, but where did those stormtroopers get those giant lizards? Did they
suddenly just randomly be able to wrangle them up and ride them.
So why doesn't Uncle Owen recognize C-3PO once they're being sold off in that little yard sale thing? I mean, I know C-3PO has like different gold plating and stuff, but wouldn't he be able to recognize the voice? So does Luke ever show signs of being force sensitive beforehand? I mean, I know in like Harry Potter and stuff, like he shows signs that he's magical in some ways, but like, does Luke ever do that? I mean, if he's the son of a Jedi, then wouldn't he be able to, like, I don't know, maybe vibrate things with his mind? Also, droid baths. Why?
So how come Luke doesn't see any kind of family resemblance in Leia in her projection? I mean, I know it's like all foggy and hazy and you can't really see that much, but wouldn't there be some kind of, resemblance to him?
Also, blue milk. Why?
How come we never really see Luke's everyday life? It would have been kind of helpful if they intercut the whole battle with the Imperial ship with Luke actually like looking up and seeing what's going on. I know that there's some behind the scenes documentary that actually showed deleted scenes with Luke actually looking up into space and seeing the battle and hanging out with him and his friends. Also, how does Owen and Beru know so much about Luke's past when in episode 3 Obi-Wan just gave him up and left and told them nothing? I mean, it would have made more sense if he actually explained to them like who Darth Vader is and who their mother was and who his sister is, but they never do.
Also, how does Obi-Wan make that sound? That sound clearly doesn't come from a human being. It clearly sounded like an alien. Was he just practicing it, or was he using the Force to make his vocal cords sound like an alien? Also, how does Obi-Wan not recognize R2-D2 and C-3PO? I mean, he spent all of the end of episode 3 hanging out with them, so how does he not recognize them? Especially when he's saying, oh, I don't seem to remember owning a droid. It's because he's an old man and he has just his bad memory. Also, why didn't Obi-Wan just tell Luke the truth about his father and about his sister from the beginning? Why didn't he just say that Vader was his father and that Luke was his sister from the beginning? I mean, it would just solve so many things at the beginning. I know he was trying to like protect Luke from the truth and not like doubt his father, but I mean, it would just solve so many problems if he just told him from the beginning that he was his father. Also, another minor quibble, how does the entire message play after Obi-Wan taps him? After it took Luke like forever to screw off the little thing attached to R2, then suddenly like Obi-Wan just randomly taps him and then the entire message plays. I don't know, maybe he's just using the Force or something. So why didn't the Empire fix the exhaust port in the Death Star? I mean, one, they have something. The exhaust port leads to the core, which blows up the Death Star, and two, they have a trench that leads up all the way to the exhaust port. I mean, that's a pretty big design flaw, especially if it took them 20 years to make the Death Star. If they started at the end of episode 3 of building the Death Star, and then it suddenly gets finished at the beginning of episode 4, shouldn't they have fully made it flawless? Also, why don't we ever see the Emperor? I guess he was off during the diplomacy and everything, trying to, dissolve the council and stuff, but by the end of episode 3, it seems like the council's already, disintegrated and democracy is done, so why would he still need to be out in the Senate trying to dissolve it? So how are the Stormtroopers weapons able to take down the Jawa transporter? They can barely shoot in a straight line to begin with, but suddenly they're able to, take down the whole transporter.
This is not a minor point, but how are the Stormtroopers actually able to take down the homestead and burn it down to the ground? Do we actually see, the weapons that they use?
Also, how do they make the fire that the Jawas actually, burn up in? Seems kind of random. I don't know if they had any material to actually, make a fire. So once they get to Mos Eisley, there's like a bunch of, random CG shots of the city, of aliens and stuff. I know they're trying to expand the world, but Just seems kind of unnecessary that they spend like a whole minute just showing off the world when they can get straight to the plot. I don't know, it just seems really distracting that they have all this stuff.
Also, how does the Jedi mind trick actually work? I know they're only supposed to use it on the weak-minded, but still, they're supposed to be Jedi. They're not really supposed to be using their powers to trick people.
The devil in the cantina. Really? So, this is another minor quibble, but why doesn't the alien like Luke? Was he sitting in his chair? I mean, it's kind of random. He's just like, Luke's minding his own business, and then he just gets tapped and says, "He doesn't like you. I don't like you either." Like, I don't know, it's just weird. So when Obi-Wan cuts off the alien's arm and it falls to the ground, it's bleeding. But shouldn't lightsabers burn through limbs? So shouldn't it like automatically cauterized? I mean, I don't know why there was blood. Also, another minor quibble, but how do they understand what aliens are saying, especially Chewbacca? He's just making random growling sounds, but they're able to understand him perfectly. And he's able to understand them perfectly. So they can understand each other, but they can't speak each other's language. I don't know, it's just really weird. Han shot first! I don't care about this whole thing about Han Solo trying to be a good guy and how he wouldn't shoot first and how can you redeem a character who would shoot first? It's just like, no. Han shot first. It's supposed to show that he's a sketchy guy and that Luke shouldn't trust them, but they do anyway, and he gets redeemed in the end. I mean, I don't see, like, what's the problem with that? Also, he does this whole move with his head, and the bullet goes straight past him. So, Greedo, how do you miss from a foot away? I just don't understand that. Also, why don't the Stormtroopers actually open up the door that C-3PO and R2-D2 are behind? I mean, if they're tracking the droids, wouldn't they be able to know that R2-D2 and C-3PO are behind the door? And if so, why don't they use that laser technology that they had at the beginning and actually open the door? They just assume that if the door's locked, then, you know, they have to move on to the next one.
Also, another minor point, but what exactly is that creature with the gas mask on? They don't really explain that. They never really show him meeting up with the Stormtroopers, making a deal with him.
Also, the Jabba scene. I know this is in the special edition, but pretty much all the information that you need to know is said between Han Solo and Greedo, so you don't really need any of the stuff that is said in the Jabba scene. Also, once Han is shooting his gun as the Stormtroopers are swarming in on him when he's about to go into his ship, like, he shoots at them and suddenly, like, there's all these big explosions and suddenly all these, like, bits of rock from the wall, like, falls down on them. It's just like, whoa, that's a pretty powerful gun. Once Han and the gang are in the Millennium Falcon and he says, "Oh, don't worry, I got a few maneuvers, we'll lose him." But he just glides lazily to the left. He doesn't really have any maneuvers, I guess because there wasn't really any visual effects for those scenes, so they kind of just left it in there.
Also, how does lightspeed actually work? What's the actual engine that gets them into lightspeed? I guess they kind of explained a little bit in episode 5 what it is, but it'd been nice if, like, Han actually explained to Luke how it works, but I guess they didn't have time.
Also, there's no railing when the two guys are sitting on the platform when the Alderaan's about to be destroyed and like the laser shoots past them. Like, what if they fell in? So here's a really weird point, but Han Solo with a helmet with a blast shield. What exactly is the point of that? So Darth Vader says, "Oh, they must be trying to return the stolen plans from the princess." It's like, why would the rebels be stupid enough to come bring the plans back to the princess inside the Death Star, where the Empire works?
Also, if the Stormtroopers have scanners to figure out, like, exactly where everyone is, why didn't they check the floorboards? I mean, they said check every inch of the ship, but they don't decide to check the floorboards, and since it's a cargo ship, wouldn't they figure out that the floorboards were actually removable and that people could be hiding under there?
Also, mice droids. Why? Also, how does the princess know that Luke is a stormtrooper? When she says, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" I mean, that could still be a regular stormtrooper, just a little bit shorter. I mean, I guess it's because she senses that Luke is her brother, or she just senses something with the Force, if she still feels the Force. Also, this is a really weird point, but once Luke goes down into the chute and then Han goes after him, and once Han shoots off his gun and Luke says, "Oh, would you forget that I already tried? That's magnetically sealed." How would Luke have time to fall down, shoot off his gun, and realize that it was magnetically sealed when Han fell down after him just a couple seconds later? So there's a monster in the trash compactor, but where exactly does it go when the garbage is being crushed? Is there a little pocket where it can swim under and not get crushed? Or did the Empire put it in there just then and there before they're gonna crush the garbage? Also, I'm sure everyone's gonna notice this, but when the Stormtrooper hits his head on the doorway, yeah, enough said about that. So why aren't the Stormtroopers more suspicious of C-3PO and R2-D2? Wouldn't they have recognized them from the opening that these are the droids that were trying to escape? Also, how do they not notice Obi-Wan as he's moving around? Do the helmets obstruct their seeing and hearing so they can't sense that there's an old guy trying to turn off the tractor beam on the ship? And I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but the whole fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, I know it's supposed to be kind of symbolic because, Obi-Wan's an old man and Vader is this half man, half machine, so of course they wouldn't have Jedi moves that were that powerful, but I mean, at least have something, or just not do anything at all, just have them threatening each other with their lightsabers, and suddenly when Luke runs by, Vader slashes him and he joins the Force. Also, how does Obi-Wan actually join the Force? I mean, it's kind of strange thing. How do you actually learn that where you can just disappear at will? Another minor point, but why does Han have feelings for a woman who's 10 years younger than him? A little creepy. So once the Millennium Falcon is actually flying down into the rebel planet, what is that rebel in the tower pointing at? Is that a radar gun, a speed gun? Is it a cop trying to check the speed? Also, do we ever actually see Luke practicing flying a ship? I know he says that he's a pilot and everything, but do the rebels actually know that they can trust him? That he's a good enough pilot to pilot an X-Wing and help the assault on the Death Star? I mean, shouldn't he actually show some credentials or a license or something? I mean, pretty much anyone who says they can fly a ship can join. Also, the character of Porkins. Yeah, there's just enough said about that character. So why don't the pilots actually go together and go down the trench and shoot off into the exhaust port to blow up the Death Star? I mean, I guess they didn't really know that they're going to be shot at by the towers and by the little TIE fighters, but still it would have been easier if they all went at once and covered each other's backs to blow up the Death Star. And also, how could the first pilot miss when he was just a couple feet away when he shot off his lasers into the exhaust port? I mean, come on, you're a trained pilot, for goodness sake. How do you miss a small target like that that's only 2 meters wide? Not even the size of a womp rat. Also, where did Han come from? Was he flying off and suddenly he decided to turn around, and in the exact moment when Luke was about to be killed by Darth Vader, he just was able to save the day? Also, once Vader spins off, shouldn't Han go after him and try to take down his ship rather than letting him escape? I mean, that would have been super helpful. Also, that was a pretty big explosion just from 2 lasers. Also, is there smoke and fire in space? I don't think there is. Or sound for that matter. Also, why don't they actually mourn the deaths of all the other rebels who sacrificed themselves in the assault? They're kind of just all happy, yay, we destroyed the Death Star, but all these other guys, they're replaceable. And it just seems kind of a little disrespectful to their memories. They gave up their lives for them. Why didn't Chewie get a medal? He did just as much work. Seems just a little discriminatory towards Wookiees. So, those were all the points I had to make about the problems of Star Wars. Again, I love Star Wars. I think they're some of the best movies ever, but I think there's some problems with them that people don't really address. So I just wanted to make this video just to do that. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.